All right, everyone, let's go into Unreal 5.5 and do a quick chaos destruction example. I'm going to use third-person template, call it chaos project, like that. I'm going to take this level, what do I say, my maps. I'm going to create another folder called chaos. But I'm going to take this map here and save it into my maps and call it chaos map. And you know how it is, so I can see from a thumbnail that this is in fact my map that we're working with. I'm going to go ahead and alter it a little bit. I moved my volumetric cloud material out so I could demonstrate something that a couple of you have asked me. What happens if you nuke or forget to rename something and now you've lost your clouds, for example? If you go to the volumetric cloud, if the volumetric cloud is in there, if it's actually in the scene and you can see it, it could be that something as easy as the cloud material had been moved, or you renamed it, or you did something else with it. If you go in here and type cloud, you'll get a lot of things, but the one you're looking for is a material cloud, simple volumetric cloud, and that is what it's supposed to look like by default, right? Okay, now I'm gonna go search in the engine folder for some default static meshes and just use something that I can use as a tower to destroy. And this cinema camera icon right here might just do the trick. And we're gonna completely destroy it, so, or close, but I'm just gonna scale this up so that's like building size. Slide it over onto this right here, and then drop it to the surface like we do. And so now we have the Tower of Doom. It's like a big Panasonic DVC. Alright, now I've got it saving my map. Now if I go inside my chaos folder, I'm going to want to destroy this by fracturing it. Let's go into the fracture mode, and it'll bring up these icons over here, some level statistics, fracturing stuff, and my outliner is still here and details are still over here. But to begin, you create a geometry collection. So click new and say, where do you want to put that? And I want to put it up here. I can just say GC for geometry collection, tower falls, right? And we're just going to drop it right in there, and all it is just an empty collection because I haven't told it what to do, and it's saying, what do you want me to do? You know, how do you want me to break this thing up? So I'm going to go to uniform fracture for now. There's all kinds of cool possibilities you can play with in here, as you can imagine. But once you learn the basics of this, you can do anything you want with it. I'm going to create a uniform, it's kind of a Voronoi algorithmic fracture. And I'm going to go in here right now. It only has about 20 sites where it's broken minimum. I'm going to raise that to like 600. And I'm going to raise the maximum number to like 1200. So it looks like it's completely decimated, but that's actually reasonable number, but enough to show that we can do real damage here. So I'll explode amount as much as I want here, and I'm going to go ahead and say fracture, and it will do all the math and divide that up into pieces for me. And it's kind of showing me what the explosion will look like, kind of an exploded view. But if we move back out of the fracture mode, you'll see that it's divided that into pieces, and it has colorized the different chunks with random colors, which are known as bone colors. If you go in and select that object and actually type bone, it'll say show bone colors right here. Turn that off, and now you have the seamless mesh before it is destroyed. Now it will probably hold together if I were to press play or simulate right now, because it's stable and there's no forces acting on it. So we have some cool possibilities here. I'm going to go to clicking engine again, typing, how about, let me see, field, IELD, node, field nodes, yeah, field nodes. So in here, got a anchor field type, bomb field type, master field type. Master is powerful for a lot of reasons. It can do the same thing as a bomb if we want. That's what I'm going to use for now, is just put that in here. And I'm going to use the old trick where I go to the middle approximately where I want that to appear, and I can go to the outliner, click on my master field, right click, snap object to view, and now it's in the middle of my camera. Right? And what if I increase that to scale of 5, just for grins? That isn't necessarily the only area of influence. You have to work with these fields a little while to get the hang of it. But for right now, that is where the bomb will be centered. I'm also going to use an anchor field so you'll understand how that works. I'm going to put an anchor field down at the base over here. And an anchor field means even though you are built into dynamic pieces and broken into shapes, for now you are anchored. You are not going to move. So the bottom part of the camera is not going to explode. I can, every bit that I reveal here actually will explode, but the rest of it will not if it's in big enough pieces. So now we have an anchor field and a master field, and you see I'm regularly saving what I'm doing. If we actually hit the simulate button, there we go. It broke into uniform shapes volumetrically, and the part at the bottom here, physics still going, did not get destroyed because that's where the anchor field was. If I move it up here a little bit, let's see what happens now if I do simulate. Yeah, see, so the base part, a little larger amount, was saved. And it just depends on how you want to do it and how you set it. All these variables here and inside of the master field are adjustable. Now, when I saw that explosion, I thought, it just looked like it fell apart. It would be nice if it were a bit more of a dramatic explosion, right? And so first of all, I like that it's delaying its explosion. When I hit simulate, it delayed it 1 second, which is fine. The field fall-off shape currently is a sphere, as we see. And we can do external strains and all of that, but what I wanted to show you is apply linear and angular velocities. The radial is, of course, away from center. So if we double the force of the explosion away from center point, it should blow outwards more instead of just tumbling down. Yes, I hit play, so that probably confused you a little bit, snap down to our player position. But if I go here, yeah, it's a lot more, it's a wider explosion. Now, if I click use directional vector, there is a directional vector as well, which in this case pointing upwards at 1200. What if we make that 3000? So it's got an upward vector of 3000 and an outward vector of 1500. So now it should explode up and out. And against gravity, very huge explosion, right? So we definitely used a big enough bomb to nuke that neighborhood. I'm going to reduce this to 2000, no particular reason. And as you can imagine, there's lots of things we can do in here. Lots of noise, lots of other forces, decay, when things fall apart, and each piece can be, we can create a separate chaos for, like the target project. And advanced field settings, and everything here is built into that master control. But right now we're just going to keep that. Now if we ran, you could do this theoretically in game. It's designed to work so that you can run it in game, and if you did that, it would be a little different each time. Each time I do this, the explosion would be slightly different. And it's just like quantum physics. There's tiny little details that are infinitesimal that all add up to things not being exactly the same. Some of it is random calculations. Now, if you do that and it's a multiplayer game, some big chunk comes and lands on our player here and kills her. And so on her screen, she gets killed by a huge chunk. But this guy over here who was watching is fine. He sees her get hit. But on his machine over the internet, the stuff can't be replicated because it's a real-time physics effect. And so he gets killed instead. And so the game has to decide which one of them is dead, or is neither of them dead, or are we going to warp them out of the way? That is where replicated network problems come from. One of the ways we can get around that, and to make this much less expensive, is to actually bake it into a geometry cache. So if I grab the tower, my geometry collection, Tower Falls, this one, and I go up to Actor, Chaos, Create Cache Manager. And I'm going to put the cache manager right in here, and it'll just be Chaos Cache Collection. Okay, so now that we have that, and we've simplified it, we're not doing any of those physics calculations on the CPU anymore, or GPU, and it has cached all the animation and everything we've wanted to create in advance into there. Now, we could do some elaborate animation in Blender, or in Houdini, or Maya, or Max, or something, and we could bake that stuff to cache as well, and save it to create huge events if we want to. But Chaos is allowing us to do more and more and more in real time, provided you have one of the modern graphics cards. But now that we're finished, it can be in play mode. Remember, the start time could, if you've been playing with this, you could accidentally send it into some negative value. Make sure it starts at 0, or wherever you want that to begin. And right now my character is too close to it, so when we pop into our character, she's being hit automatically, by the explosion. So what if we move her back out of the way like that? So now we have a little better view of it, right? And like I like to do, I'm going to go into the game mode here. I'm going to say search for my third person character. I'm going to duplicate that. Say it's my third person character. Same old, same old. And make it so it's obviously a different character like I do. I usually go into the mesh, right? And select, do I have the other one in here right now? Yeah, just that one. I'm going to use Manny then. Let's use Manny, the regular Manny, and it's going to change to him instead of Manny Simple. And then ABP Manny, that's the animation blueprint for him. And so now, compile that. And you remember I do this. I go in and I'll select the camera boom and turn on camera lag to create some smoothness. Now, at the moment, that camera is directly behind like this, correct? There's no offset value for this for the follow camera. But what if I wanted to move in the frame my main character over a little bit? Could I just grab this follow cam and move it more to the right by 100 frames so that my character is in the left third? Let's see what happens if I hit play. Yeah, it moved over a little bit. And I have to, and as you remember, I have to switch my default pawn class to my third person character, right? Which will be Manny and he'll be over in that third licking the explosion. Feels a little too far over. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to grab that follow cam again, and I moved it 170. What if I move it 120? Alright. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. I could even move the camera down and point it up a little bit. And what I would do in a game, really, of course, is I would program it to look at the event and allow it to look at the event by programming the camera. Now, the next thing that might be kind of cool is if he starts running and gets hit by one of those chunks, right? He has physics. That is real geometry with collision. So if he is over here, you know, he gets hit by one of these blocks, it really happens. So at the moment, just very quickly, what I'm thinking is we go into my third person character because it is ours, you know. I'm not screwing anything up, I duplicated it. And move this over. And let's create a custom event really fast. How about add custom event like this? And this can be R key, you know, but I'm going to call it ragdoll. There's a lot of ways we can make our character ragdoll. We have to give them health, and then we have to damage their health, you know, and so we can have an event on health damage, things like that. For now, I'm just going to use the R key, I think. So if you go in here and you say R key, it'll take you to the keyboard events like this. You can go down and find any one you want. It really doesn't matter. I'm just, you know, doesn't have to be R. But we could do it this way. We don't even have to have that event like that. And you'll see that it's just like the other ones, the input events. We've created our own, but a custom one. And it will happen when we press R. And so I can come over here like this and say set physics. Yeah. Set physics asset mesh, and we can go and grab our mesh, you know, if it's not already connected. And if we click simulate, it will apply physics to our character. But if we do that right now, he gets hit, but he doesn't ragdoll. It applies physics to his character like it was before, but that's because my third-person character, we go in and look at his, if we go here, Manny, and we go search in that directory, we'll see Manny doesn't have a physical skeleton, which is what you need in order to ragdoll. So we can just click on him, right click, but we're just going to go to create physics asset, create and assign. And it will say, what do you want to do? We're just going to use the default for now. And it will go in here and create default physics asset for him. Head collisions, little huge, you know, and there's things you'd want to do to customize it for your character. But that should be all right. Actually, you know, we could hit simulate right here. And you'll see, yeah, we've added a skeletal mesh, SKM, Manny, with physics to the mannequin's mesh folder. If we go back to our third-person blueprint, and we've created, when we click the R key, that event will set the simulation on our mesh, and I just pulled that down here from here. One thing we have to do under mesh is to go down to collision and change from character mesh collision to ragdoll in this instance, because right now that's really his only physical event that we've defined. But we change that to ragdoll. It gets more complicated when you want to have ragdoll from you know, splash damage or spike objects or a sword that hits you or something. All of that can be done, but now you can see where that physical reaction comes from. So now that we've defined that, he won't begin ragdoll, and he goes wandering into this. But what I'll do is, instead of us writing a bunch of blueprints about health, damage radius, and how much of his health is destroyed and what hurt him, you know, that sort of thing, when he gets hit by something, I'll hit the R key. So now when we play it, he runs in here, I'll hit the R key, and that had to hurt. And it doesn't matter how many times we do it, because the geometry is all baked out. It can be like a performance. You know exactly where he's going to go to get hit, and he's like, whew, I made it all the way through that, and you know, okay. Boy, that cannot be comfortable. Here's a good example. If you don't go in there and set rotation restraints and things in your physics asset, he can get looking pretty ugly. You put the rotation constraints and limits and things on the skeleton, it becomes very real looking. But that is where the physics stuff comes from. His body is a live physics object right now. We could have part of it be controlled by physics, part of it not. MetaHuman gives you a lot of things like that as well. And you could also have, could you have clothing on the character, which is live physics all the time, even though the character themselves is not? Yes, you can. You can give him a cloak, you know, or cape. No capes. He had a cape. He'd be flowing in the wind. His hair can be a live physics object. Same thing. And we begin it all again. Now, what's great about this, all of this we can put into the sequencer, and that is what we will do next.